here we go. This is Stacey McKibben with the Master Communicator Podcast, where CEOs, C-suite executives, and VP level executives share their advice. It's 6 questions in 9 minutes because the best leaders share ideas concisely and quickly. So let's get to it. In a few sentences, tell me who you are and what you do.
Sure. So I'm Gregg Anderson, the CEO of werent, and we specialize in sales and marketing strategy, software, and services to help B2B companies grow better.
Wow, that sounds like a lot of fun. How long have you guys been doing that?
Since January 2014.
Okay, great. And have you found over this last couple of years, things have been getting more and more exciting, or have you found that people are kind of constricting? What have you seen in kind of the marketing space?
Definitely more exciting. Definitely more exciting. We've grown triple-digit percentages for the last 4 years now.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had the opportunity to work with bigger and better clients and bigger budgets and get to be more creative.
That's amazing, because then it gives you an opportunity to really get in there and make a difference.
Yeah.
That's super fun. That's great. So question number 2, what's the best thing about leading people?
Sure. I think it's different for everybody. For me, the best thing is about seeing our employees grow.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm wowed by what a lot of employees are capable of and how they think and the creative solutions that they can bring to the table.
Yeah.
So for me, I think coming to work every day and working with smart people is really the most rewarding part of my job as a leader.
Well, and I think it's great that you actually see them through that lens.
Mm-hmm.
And it helps, I think, a lot with patience level and recognizing that they really do intend to do well when they come in every day. Oftentimes, though, they might not know what that looks like. But if we look at them as they don't know what they're doing or that they don't care, then we kind of treat them that way sometimes. Would you agree?
Yeah, it's that, the book Extreme Ownership, I think, does a great job of articulating that point
Mm-hmm.
of, look, anything that happens in the organization is basically, it's the fault of the person who's at top.
Yeah.
If we fail on a campaign, it's not because our employees did something that they shouldn't have done. It's because we didn't provide them enough training to make sure that they were effective.
Yeah. That's great. I love that ownership mentality. Question number 3. I often hear from other leaders, business would be great if it weren't for that people thing or that people part. Tell us what your thoughts about that.
Yeah, I would say, well, I guess depending on how far they are into their career, they might be right or wrong. If you've sold 3 companies and you've hanging out on your yacht and you've got a side project, maybe you don't want employees. But if you're in the weeds and running a business with employees, I think most leaders don't have it right. I think having a great team, no matter the size, starts with having a very strong core beliefs and very strong core values that really guide your hiring practices. Mm-hmm. And guide your practices also through termination. So one of the tools that we use is called the People Analyzer, and that's from the book Traction. And what the People Analyzer does is it allows you to rank your employees based on their commitment to your core values. So basically, it helps you understand, are they a good fit for our team? And so we have 5 core values, and we can rank them either a plus, a minus, or a plus minus for each one of those core values. And then we also rank them on get it, want it, and have the capacity to do it. So do they get it? Do they understand what the job entails? Do they want it? Are they motivated to do it? And then finally, do they have the capacity to do it? So do they either have the bandwidth that they need to do it? Do we need to free up some of their time? Do we need to move responsibilities off their plate? Or do they have the experience that's required? Do they need additional training classes? Are they a natural at doing that type of job if it's requires a lot of organization and they're not just naturally an organized person, then maybe they need to go into a different seat. So the right person, the right seat for the right job. So that's just one of the tools that we use. The other one that we use is called True Colors, and it's based on DISC. Basically, each employee gets assigned their colors. Maybe they're an orange, green, and that helps tremendously with communication, because if you're having an issue with another employee, you can say something to the effect of, hey, I need a little bit more orange from you, which means I'm asking that employee to speed up. Or I could say, hey, look, as a green, I need to process this information before providing you an intelligent response, because that's what a green does. They're scientific, they're analytical, they need time to think about it. So I think, good communication tools like True Colors can take away from directly speaking about the person, and they can place the onus more on the tool or the colors, and that removes some of those personal feelings that are involved when there's conflict.
I love everything you're saying there, because it really, again, goes back to the first way you answered the other question around ownership and
Mm-hmm.
taking responsibility for having the people around you that are really most capable and want to be there, and using whatever tools and processes to help you to really identify that on a consistent basis. And then really, as you're saying, getting into the practice of separating the person from the behavior, so
Mm-hmm.
that you can have adult conversations, regularly and consistently, without that whole prickly people part coming in where they get defensive or take
Mm-hmm.
offense or any of those sorts of things. So thank you for
Exactly.
sharing that. Those are some great ideas and some great tools.
Yeah, and we do just a ton of workshops on True Colors and exercises that really helps them understand their colors and their behaviors and why they do things, and helps them understand the behaviors of others, and also what they have in common with those other colors too.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I think it's the value of those is where we can have appreciation for the differences, as opposed to use the differences for reasons as to why we don't get along or why we can't collaborate or connect.
Exactly.
So that's great. Thank you. Those are great ideas. Question number 4, what other successful business leaders like yourself, of course, should be on the
Mhm.
podcast? Who else do you think would have good leadership insights?
Yeah, I would say, geez, I could write you a list of a dozen right now. I would say Kristen Kale comes to mind, Dr. Kristen Kale.
Oh, yeah.
She's a part of Entrepreneurs Organization and does a lot of work within that organization.
Yeah.
Bernie Schroeder, he's
Okay.
the director of programs at San Diego State for the Lavin Entrepreneurship Center. He's a great guy.
Mhm.
Kent Erickson runs a local IT company, and he's been in business for years and has had some successful exits.
Yeah.
And then another name would be Dan Yates. Dan's the CEO of Endeavor Bank,
Gotcha.
which is a regional bank that's done very well and has raised quite a bit of money
Mhm.
in a very unique way.
That's great. Thank you. I think, again, part of this whole exercise is, who all can we be learning from,
Mm-hmm.
right? And emulating. So that's a big part of this process, is how do we, level up, right? The 5 people that we spend the most time with. So thank you for that. I appreciate those insights there. Question number 5, what piece of advice about communication would you give other leaders?
What advice about communication? Um, yeah, that's a good question. You know, we have had our employees read the book Radical Candor,
Mm,
and I think that has certainly helped. But I think just anything around like leadership and communication is really staying humble to your roots and really sticking along a very consistent line in terms of coming back to those core values. One of the things that I learned in the Coast Guard, one time I got in trouble with my boss when I was in the military, and he said, hey, as long as you live by these 3 core values, you can't do anything wrong. And if you start to think of maybe some things that don't fall within those core values, that's when you're going to be in trouble. Of course, this is when I was 19 years old, right? So didn't
good
exactly
advice
happen.
early on.
Yeah. And so I try to think of that in my own company of, if there are hard decisions to make, or things that I need to communicate, it should be communicated around what's already expected versus coming up with, something new that they wouldn't expect, because I guess really it's consistency, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure you see that at home too, right? With the younger son at home, and you see that consistency and that need for that pop up over and over and over again. I think that's a huge one right there. Is be consistent in your expectations and your accountability thereof, and
Mhm.
all of those sorts of things.
Yeah, I think most entrepreneurs are really great at unpredictability because we're all kind of visionaries and we want to fly around the world and change things overnight. And that's kind of the opposite of what employees want. Most employees want stability. They want to be able to predict, how their day is going to go, or they want to make sure their job's still going to be there the next day. And so I think it's realizing that, and how can you give them that type of consistency and predictability that they want, while also being an innovator and being able to do things outside of the box.
Yeah. All great insights. I love that. All right. So my last question, number 6, and the magic question. Tell us about your favorite boss or lead or teacher.
Yeah, I would say my favorite teacher was probably Bernie Schroeder, who I mentioned. He's the director of programs at San Diego State at their entrepreneurship center. So Bernie built a marketing agency, and they went through an IPO for about $500 million. And after that IPO, he decided to come back and teach. And just the stories on this guy, I remember he was telling me about how he came to teach, and he met this professor and met the dean. The dean says, "We get guys like you all the time. You're going to come in here, you're going to teach for a semester, and then you're going to find your next thing, and you'll be gone and basically won't create that much value for us." And he said, "You also don't have a master's degree." So that next week, he enrolled in the master's program. And he was walking by the dean, and the dean's like, "What are you doing here?" He's like, "Getting my master's degree." That's just the type of person he is, where he'll just kind of take on anything. And so he was one of my favorite teachers, I think, because he was really the first person to kind of study me and study my behavior, and to give me actionable advice around it. Like when I was going to San Diego State, I was doing, 15 different things. And one of the things he told me is, he said, "Gregg, you're a mile wide and an inch deep." And basically that means like slow down and specialize. And so that's really helped me in my career.
That's fantastic. I love that. Well, thank you so much for being on today. Tell us, Gregg, how can people find you?
Sure. You can email me at sayhello@41orange.com, or you can go to our website, www.41orange.com.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Well, this is Stacy McKibben with the Master Communicator Podcast. For more insights and ideas, please go to www.concilioteam.com, and you can find out anything you'd like to there. And we look forward to hearing from you. Look forward to our next session, and when we find out what our next entrepreneur has to say. Take care.